going to go ahead and get started. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. Welcome to our webinar, Driving with the Top Down. We're looking forward to walking you through how to transform your budget process into an agile framework with Oracle PBCS. Today's presenters will give you a deeper look into our topics throughout the webinar. But first, we have a quick poll. Go ahead and vote once you see that on your screen. Just want to get a better idea of who we have in the audience today. Nice, all right. About half of us have voted so far. Looks like some people are already using the tool and some of us have never seen it before. So we're looking forward to diving in. Just as a reminder, if at any point during the webinar you can't see the screen, or if you have any questions, feel free to use the Q&A box to let us know, and we'll answer all your questions at the end of the webinar during our Q&A session. And now I'm happy to introduce Jim Moore and Eddie Fugelsang, our hosts for our webinar today. Jim is a solutions lead at Platform Specialist with nearly 20 years in the world of finance, accounting, and technology. His project work has extended across multiple verticals in both industry and consulting. Jim loves to work hand in hand with our clients to deliver best-in-class solutions. He hails from Pittsburgh and is a loud and proud Steelers fan. Eddie Fugelsang is a solutions architect on Platform's planning team who excels in building and integrating systems for our clients. For over 10 years, Eddie has been working to design, develop, and connect the financial systems that power businesses of all sizes across many different industries. Eddie loves to travel, most recently visiting Vietnam. He also has excellent taste in music, if I do say so myself. I'm Molly Mackler, and I'm our Director of Client Success at Platform Specialist. I'm here to be your point of contact for any and all things related to our offerings and expertise. And if you'd like to schedule a demo of PBCS or any of these solutions that we support, I'm the right person to connect with. I'm a proud Duke fan, and that's about all I have to say about that, at least until we beat UNC in March. We're glad to have some of our clients joining us today and excited to welcome the new names and faces to the webinar as well. I'd like to briefly introduce our firm to all those new faces and refresh our current clients on our offerings. Platform Specialists in a nutshell. We pride ourselves on being a group of straight shooters who serve our clients first. We partner with the leading EPM technologies in the space, and today we'll be focusing on Oracle PBCS. Our goal is to tailor the best fit of our services, solutions, and technologies for your business needs as a cloud-certified Oracle Gold partner. The key differentiator that we bring to the table is that each of our rockstar consultants thoroughly understand both the technical and functional components of the business challenges that our clients face. And that gives our firm the ability to take a holistic approach to serving our clients efficiently and effectively. We bring Big Four expertise to the table without all the red tape, and we've implemented hundreds of solutions within the EPM space. We're based on the East Coast, although we do serve clients across the US as well as internationally. Platform Specialist has supported clients across all major industries, and we're able to speak your language in order to help solve specific business problems. We'll be focusing on tuning up your budgeting process in PBCS today, but we also help our clients with all things financial planning, budgeting, consolidation and close, reporting, and business analysis, as well as systems integration. As an organization, we're focused on the underlying question of why we're delivering solutions that we deliver to clients so that we can help them make the best decisions for their business. With that said, we want to touch on why you may want to consider moving to the cloud from on-premise. By moving to the cloud, you're allowing your finance organization to become more agile through lower change costs and faster user adoption throughout the organization. Along with enabling more agility, moving to the cloud provides lower total cost of ownership and a better return on investment, reducing maintenance fees and many other costs. The Oracle Cloud Suite is a major focus of R&D at Oracle and is constantly adding new features and benefits for their end users. And with that, I'll pass it along to Jim Moore to kick us off about Oracle PBCS.
Thanks, Molly. This is Jim Moore, EPM Solutions Lead here at Platform Specialist. Thank you for all of you for joining today. One of the biggest questions that I'd say that we get from the majority of our clients are just what can we do to be more efficient in our budgeting and planning practices? How can we streamline the process so that we're not spending 6 months going back to the drawing board and re-implementing our budget solution time and time again? Recently, the Oracle Cloud PBCS solution has become more and more nimble in that regard and has a lot of out-of-the-box features and functionality that allow you to do just that, where streamlining the process, entering budgets based upon pre-seeded actuals, being able to trend those accordingly rather seamlessly by your individual entities or departments allows that functionality to really shine and be able to show it in a pretty concise dashboard format rather seamlessly. As you may or may not know, the Planning and Budgeting Cloud solution is based upon the historical on-premise version of Hyperion Planning, which has been around for over 20 years. And sort of scary to say I've been working with it since its infancy, but the tool itself is based on those fundamental principles that underlie the on-premise version. The underlying database engine, et cetera, is still the basis for all the engine analysis and all the trending and functionality that execute all the logic behind the scenes. Go ahead, Molly. So for today's demo, we're going to focus on a fictitious retail company in the automotive industry, and Eddie will give you a little bit more background on that. But what we're going to do here is as I stated previously, going to show some basic functionality of being able to take your existing actual data, using that as a basis to seed for the upcoming budget cycle. Taking that data that has been set by management as your targets for the upcoming budget season and entering drivers and trending those accordingly to be able to hit those targets at your base department level, at your region level, and all the way up to the top of the house, across your entity dimension. We're going to show you some of the out-of-the-box functionality that is pretty unique and handy when it comes to entering data. You don't necessarily have to enter all of your information by month. If you have a pretty good idea of what number you want to hit at a higher level for the year, you can enter it at the year, and it will incorporate that seasonality trend across each individual period. We're going to show some of the dashboard functionality that's built into the tool. It allows you to enter those percentages or amounts in one individual grid, and then see the immediate results within that same grid as those percentages are entered and the business rule is executed in the background to populate those dashboards. And then we're going to show some functionality too along those same lines. Once you finalize your budget, how you move from your finalized budget and use that as a basis for seeding your strategic or long-term forecast. With that, I'll hand it over to Eddie Fugelsang. He's going to talk a little bit more about what we're going to do today from a demo standpoint within PBCS.
Thanks, Jim. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining. I'm Eddie Fugelsang. I'd like to introduce the case that we're going to go over today. So in this demo, like Jim said, we are the client is an automotive sales company. They are selling both new and used cars in addition to parts. Some of the requirements that they have are the need for agile processes for both the budget and the long-term strategic plan, as Jim also alluded to. They have three main types of users. So the lead finance admin is going to be in charge of loading the actual data and seeding that into the budget. Management will then go ahead and set top-down targets for the finance team to meet as a benchmark. And then the end finance users will need to be able to update their plan and compare it to those targets that were set. So now that we have our client needs understood, let's go ahead over to the next slide and walk through our solution. While we're switching over to that, I'll quickly start to set it up and say that we have a task list set up in order to streamline the flow of the process that allows each of those different users to follow a set of steps to complete the budgeting process. So here you see these three separate areas. Obviously, you won't have access to these if you're not, if only the right type of user would have access to specific pieces of it. So we'll get started with it. As with many budgeting processes, we'll start with actuals. So as a finance admin, we can load actuals, and that's going to usually be coming from your GL. It'll be using a straightforward file load that you pretty much just choose the file. You can upload it, and then as long as it's in the proper format, it will go right through. Since we've already loaded actuals in previously, we're going to actually skip this step and move into the next step. So switching roles now over into a management user, we have a dashboard that we're able to input target trending in addition to some other drivers. So switching roles over to the management user, we have this dashboard that we're able to input target trending in addition to some other drivers, as well as review the budget, all in real time here. So on the top left side, you see where the drivers can all get put in. So the expense and revenue trending percentages are essentially going to be the baseline increase or decrease that will be applied from the top down across the P&L for the budget year. So in addition to that, as you can see, there are some other drivers for cost of goods and freight. Since these are typically more specific and analyzed a bit more closely, we wanted to provide a more detailed driver just for those accounts. Okay, so once we update those and hit save, it not only saves the data, but also business rules being run that automatically is going to trend and target the budget from the top down. So once we do that, we see everything else in this dashboard populate automatically. And as it's running, the business rule is going to be first copying the actuals into the budget for accounts and stores, for all stores and departments. And then next, any non-driver based revenue and expense trending is going to be calculated on top of those actuals using the trend adjustment percentages that we've entered in here. Following that, driver based expenses are calculated, again, using the percentages for cost of goods and freight. And then once that step is complete, the variable administrative costs and contribution margin are going to be calculated. And that's going to be based off of the revenue and expense that we've already previously done. So now that that's complete, we can see it all update here. We've created our target budget, and we can move that into the next step in the task list, which is simply to run a business rule to copy that target budget into a specific target version, which will serve as a benchmark for our end finance users. And since Jim's our end finance user today, I'm going to pass it back over to him.
Okay, I'll continue here as an end user. Like Eddie said, typically at this point, the budget data is pretty close to seeded based on your historical actual data. But as a department store owner or the owner of an individual region that has multiple stores, you may be in a situation where you understand that at certain months of the year, you're going to have an increase in sales or an increase in in particular, say your individual freight costs are going to increase, and you can tweak these numbers accordingly by period. But like we were talking about earlier, within the trend of seeding from the top down, if you know that your engine sales are roughly going to be 2 million as a from a budgeting standpoint in your upcoming budget cycle, you can just enter those amounts at the year total, and it will trend those by month accordingly based on your seasonality that is incorporated within the out-of-the-box functionality in PBCS. Okay. And so upon making that update of the total engine sales, you automatically increase the total revenue, and your cost of goods sold amounts by month, by period, would be based upon the revenue amounts. So whatever percentage was put on, I think it was 13% for the cost of goods sold, that's based upon total revenue calculations. So even if an end user were to get savvy and try to go behind in a backdoor fashion and try to enter cost of goods sold data for their department store, upon hitting save or executing that business rule, those amounts would be overwritten anyway, based upon the rule that runs on save. Along those same lines here, on the expense side of the house, your freight costs are going to also be calculated based upon total revenue. So as your total revenues increase by store and your freight costs are rather standard across the board, say 7% of that total revenue per store is going to be calculated here in your outbound freight costs. So you can add in whatever additional costs you may have on a given year, and for any cycle will be incorporated into that functionality. And then as an end user, after you've made your adjustments, you're going to sort of want to see that in a consolidated view. You can look at your revenues by store, your P&L by store. You can see where you are versus your target. Once you have your target amount set, you can establish your particular store, your particular region. If you happen to be in the Northeast, because if you're in charge of say 10 stores within that region, you can see your variance of your working budget versus your target, and where you are off and where adjustments need to be made. Same with your total revenue and your cost of goods sold. Like I mentioned earlier, so the next step in that process after your budget has been finalized and it's at a point where it's ready to be signed off on and approved, typically the administrator would take the next step and be able to take that finalized budget data and seed the strategic plan or strategic forecast. So this business rule essentially does just that. It copies the finalized budget into the strategic plan, which in this case is the next 4 years. And on this, in a similar fashion, you would be able to incorporate your sales growth, your cost increases across the board, usually at a higher level than you would at your budget. So you may be doing this just at the year level, but when you make these types of adjustments within your strategic plan by year, let's say you expect growth for your sales, you expect an increase in your freight, when you hit save on this, after that amounts are entered, you can immediately see those results updated over here in your bar charts, as well as your P&L review down below. So again, this is a pretty basic concept, but it really does allow you to understand the way that PBCS works and allows you to be able to use your already seeded data as a basis for your comparisons and try to hit those targets accordingly. You can push and pull levers with your drivers to be able to meet those targets as closely as possible. At this point, I'll pass it back to Molly Mackler for any questions and to close out our webinar today.
Really appreciate you attending our webinar. I'll reach out to you personally and send you this replay so that you'll be able to see it. We'll also have a recording of the webinar ready shortly on LinkedIn as well as our website. You'll also be receiving a note from me after the webinar to schedule your own demo of PBCS with us. Really appreciate you taking the time to join. We hope you'll join us next time. Thank you so much and have a great weekend.